bale collecting wagon. Okay, find the mower. This is surprisingly easy to manoeuvre if you drive it backwards. It does help if you see what you're doing. And this tractor has such a tight turn radius, we can put that right there. Very little manoeuvring. That looks okay. But you can't pick the mower up and turn left and go over there, because you'll smash it into the door. Oops. Okay, let's drive across here then. Oh yeah, hang on a sec. I'll get out of the way first. Well, yeah, I mean, how much have we done so far? Money-wise. I think we started on Monday. So we spent a lot of money on Monday. And we still bought some new vehicles on Tuesday. We made a ton of money on Wednesday. Thursday, yes. Thursday was the day we bought the field, because we then chopped down a couple of trees in the field so that it didn't have clumps of trees stuck in the middle of where you wanted to drive. But we did spend... land purchase 170, yes. So we paid back a lot of money. We borrowed it back again. bought the field. The land purchase was 170, but we made back 60 on that purchase immediately. 70 yesterday, and we're at a loss today because we bought 3 bags of fertilizer, and so far we've only made back 5. So yeah, we've been playing for a game week, and we have put a lot of hours on these tractors. It's pretty much 25 hours. So this is our other piece of Anderson equipment. And we went for the cheap one because I don't need a grabber that will gently pick up wrapped bales. We're dealing with grass on the field. We bring the grass in and we turn it into a bale snake. So we don't have to worry about tearing the silage wrap at all. Since the stuff we're picking up is never wrapped. And obviously with the X-Tractor, there's similarly nothing we can move while it's wrapped. So I could tell you about the standard silage handling. The most recommended method is to pick up your grass bales from the field and take them back to the yard. And we were in Ohio a couple of weeks back and actually saw that in progress. Where farmer had used, he'd just finished off using his round baler, baling up all the grass, and then he used a 3-point attachment fork on the back. As I showed before. Kind of like that, but with only 2 prongs, not 4. So he was only picking up 1 bale at a time. He had these very small old tractors. I'm not sure what models because they were too far away to actually make out. But we're bringing the bales off the field one at a time. And he took them all back to the yard, and then he actually used the old Oseh style bale wrapper to wrap all the bales in the yard where he was storing them. But you would wrap them in the yard as close to where you wanted to store them as possible. I've got all the bales. We've done this one. Could be going slightly mad. Oh no, there's one. And then every so often you need to inspect the bales and make sure that they're not ripped up by little critters. Otherwise you use some tape to repair the bales while the silage does its thing. And it sounds like that is a Dukes baler, yes. in the office.
What are you doing?
Not staying in bed. Yeah, I think when we started this farm, that baler had just been released on the mod hub, and I fancied giving it a try since I've used the rest of the round balers. Is it New Holland? Yeah, there's the New Holland. Got a class square baler. Got a Dutz square baler. Oh, there's that one now as well. The Kuhn round baler. Couple of squares. That's it. So yeah, the farmer over in Ohio was using this thing. And then on our last day, as we were heading for home, we came across a farm where basically they had rows of covered silage. I mean, you're talking, imagine these windrows were 100 times the size and just wrapped in silage where they sat. And he also had rows of square wrapped bales, so obviously a well-off operation considering the cost of some of that equipment. But they had silage as far as the eye could see, and it looked like they had 3 or 4 very, very large cattle barns. So, considering where they were, they probably supplied milk for cheese. Since in Ohio it's very popular in that area. So I've got 17 so far. Well, my personal opinion is it's probably better than mashed up sheeps, which is what European farmers use to feed their cows, and thus mad cow disease. Cows aren't natural predators, they don't eat sheep in the wild. I've been watching Farmer's Wife does a farming blog on YouTube. I think she releases about a video a week, and they feed their cows so yeah, you take the entire corn husk and just throw it into a masher and mash it all up. So it's I think in Farm Sim 17 it was what they called CCR or CCM, corn cob mix. It was basically the entire corn husk all mashed up into a powder, and they feed that to their cows. Now that was actually an option in 17. There's a CCR mod, and basically what you had to do was what did you have to do? Harvest your corn normally, So normal corn header, harvest the corn, but you would unload the harvester into a special auger wagon which converted the corn in, rather than just being corn kernels, it was the entire corn husk. And then you would unload that into a silage bunker, cover it over for 24 hours, and that would give you your CCM. And you could then feed it to the pigs. You couldn't feed it to... Okay. You couldn't feed it to your cows. Where's the way out over here? But the result was you got a larger volume of corn than you would do just harvesting corn. Okay, that's probably good. And hands off while this thing unloads. So long as I don't mess with the throttle, it should all stay just right. Then we pull forwards just so that the ramps at the back don't knock the stack over. I'm going to take this back to the main yard and clean it because we haven't cleaned it yet. And unsurprisingly, it's done an awful lot of work on this farm. I might take it over to the maintenance shop or maintenance trailer and see what's what. Oh, Mrs. Oseh beat me back. Okay, let's check this. Equipment. Farm Tech DDK 86. Oh no, we need to resequence that and then do that. So I've got pneumatic star 900. That's the weeder. That's the other thing. Getting lots and lots of different types of equipment does mean that it's easier to see. Okay, that's Deutz Very Master. That's got to be the baler because it's the only Deutz they've got on the farm. New Holland Fairy Feed. That's the harvester. Kuhn DC 401. Now that might be one of two things. RBM, there we go. 82%, that's pretty much good condition. So I guess we'll clean that off. Well, the left arm got really, really dirty, but the rest of it, not so bad. There we go. And yeah, I'll sneak through here. Yeah, that was a swamp though. And up here. And we'll just leave that there because I now need the telehandler. Oops. I don't clean it every time, but very occasionally. I probably shouldn't have bothered this time since we're about to use it almost immediately. So, 20 bales. Go. Ah. There we go. I guess a couple of issues with that wrapper is it doesn't have a gas tank, but it does have a small engine. So you do have to maintain it, but you don't have to refuel it ever. And in the condition it's in at the moment, the engine is not actually running. You only actually have to run the engine to move it. Whereas I think you probably have to have the engine on while you're wrapping. Because obviously it's a self-contained unit. You can't hitch a tractor to the back end because the bales need to come out there. It's a nice piece of equipment, and it goes as fast as I do. Which is more than the towed wrappers do. I think the fastest wrapper that you haul behind a tractor and pick up bales with is the square wrapper. The Oseh is quite slow. I remember in 17 someone did a mod on the Oseh that wrapped in about 5 seconds. This thing is quite fast enough. I can't keep up with loading it. The speed it wraps. I'm not going particularly quickly at it. So when we start using silage for our cows, we'll put that up in the barn, up that or in the loft shed, the hay loft, just up the ramp to the rear of it, and wrap the bales in situ so they can just sit there. They probably shouldn't sit upstairs in a hay loft because there is the potential for them to leak, and obviously the cows live downstairs and you probably don't want silage effluent leaking on cows' heads while they're wandering around doing cow things. But that's kind of what I plan to do. But since we don't have a mixer yet, and I can't afford one, we're just sticking with hay feed at the moment. Since hay and silage are pretty much the same, yeah, they both produce a 75% production. I figured it was easier to make the hay because the horses need hay too. And the silage we'll just wrap and ship. Not too low, because that bale spike actually scrapes along the floor. So up in the hay loft we've got hay and straw bales, both of which are needed by the cows and the horses. We've only got a 2-horse paddock, so they really don't take much time out of the day. And the main reason I bought it was so we could ride the horses and sightsee. So I visited most of the locality around the farm. tractor. And in a couple of days, obviously we're going, quite well. We're about 5 days in, so we've only got 5 more days before we can sell those 2 horses and get 2 new ones. And that'll be a nice injection of cash for the farm. I would kind of hope to be in a situation where we can actually pay off the debt before the horses are available, so that'll give us 100,000, well, call it 90,000 straight off to start looking at new farmland or maybe a larger tractor or something like that. The map itself is called Field Mountain. It's not available on the mod hub, but the link is below if you're watching this on a browser. The tractors are from SFS UK, which I have heard is going away, although they're supposed to be replacing it with something better. Now, I don't know what that is, but potentially that means that you won't be able to get the Valtra link anymore. I mean, it's pretty much the same as the in-game Valtra series, ABC, what's it, AN, T and S, but it has limited, supposedly, Valtra factory colours, and all of the engine options. So we're running Valtra A's with 130 horsepower, which you can't get from the in-game model. I think it stops out at about 110, 115 maybe. And then with Yen you get a lot of smaller engine options. I think the S also, not the S, the T also has some smaller engine options, and maybe a couple between the 2 extremes that the in-game version has. And we went with the A's because I don't like having multiple tractors of hugely disparate horsepower, because it means that, oh, you have to use, the blue one to do ploughing because the green one doesn't have the horsepower to hold the plough, and that sort of thing. And it's a problem I've had with Lawfolds, where the Class A Axion is 380 horsepower, and for the longest time it was the only thing I had which could operate the complete mower set on the hills around Lawfolds. It was the only thing I had that could do ploughing. It was the only thing I had that could do seeding. So I had to wait until all the ploughing was done or all the cultivating was done before I could start seeding. So I bought the Zerion, which is slightly more horsepower and just different. And so that allowed me to, send one of them round on a ploughing mission every single field, and then the other one could go around with the seeder immediately after it and be seeding the fields before all the ploughing was complete. And with some of the weather options I've had lately on law folds, getting stuff planted as quickly as I can. You know, oh, I've got one free day here, I better get the ploughing, I better plough and plant. It helped having two big tractors, and the last time I was ploughing and seeding, I also needed another heavy tractor on the large auger wagon to unload the harvester, so at that point I just said, I need a third tractor. So we now have 3 large class tractors on law folds. Right, so she's okay, we'll put that there because we don't need that anymore. And we'll go over here and start stabbing bales.